The email from the realtor sits unread for 6 hours. You know what it says before you open it. The beach house on Sandbridge, the one you toured in April with the wraparound deck and the outdoor shower nobody actually needs, just went under contract. Someone else's, not yours. You knew that before you left the open house, before you even looked at the number, because you'd already done the math in the car on the drive home, the ocean still visible in the rearview mirror. You're sitting in a Wendy's parking lot when you finally open the email, not because anything dramatic is happening. You just stopped for a Frosty on the way back from dropping off your daughter at soccer practice and the phone buzzed while you were waiting in the drive-through line. We regret to inform you the property has accepted another offer. You read it once. You don't feel what you expected to feel. This is what walking away from $1.4 million actually looks like. Not a dramatic phone call to a realtor, not a tearful goodbye to a dream, just a parking lot, a melting Frosty, and a number in an email that confirms something you already decided 6 weeks ago. Starts in March on a Tuesday, the way most of this always starts. You and your wife had been talking about the beach house for 2 years, the way people talk about things that live in the someday folder. Then your father-in-law passed his rental property down faster than expected, and suddenly there was $340,000 sitting in an account that hadn't existed the month before. Real money, liquid, no strings, no debt attached to it. The kind of money that changes what someday means. Your wife found the listing first. 4 bedrooms, half a mile from the water, built in 2009, updated kitchen, the kind of place that shows up in a slideshow at Thanksgiving for the next 30 years, $1.4 million. With the inheritance as a down payment, the mortgage would run $6,800 a month. You both stared at that number for a long time without saying anything. You already own a duplex in Charlotte. You bought it 4 years ago for $310,000, financed at 70%, and it's been quietly doing what duplexes do, sitting there, cash flowing $640 a month after the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and the inevitable water heater that dies every 18 months. Nobody at your daughter's soccer games knows you own it. It has never come up. It doesn't photograph well. There's no version of a duplex that ends up in a Thanksgiving slideshow. You pull up your spreadsheet, the one you've kept since you were 29, the one your wife jokes is the only thing you've been consistent about for a decade, and you run the numbers on both paths side by side. Not because you don't want the beach house. You do. You can already picture the outdoor shower, the sound of the screen door in July. But you run the numbers anyway because that's the thing you do now. Path 1, the beach house. $340,000 down, $1.06 million financed, $6,800 a month in principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA. You'd use it maybe 6 weeks a year. The other 46 weeks it sits there, a mortgage payment with a view. You could rent it out short-term to offset the cost, but you've read enough forum threads from people who tried that to know the math rarely works the way the property manager's pitch deck says it will. Best case, it breaks even. Realistic case, it costs you $2,000 to $3,000 a month every month for a beach house you visit 6 weeks a year. Path 2, you take the $340,000 and you buy 3 more duplexes like the one in Charlotte. Not because duplexes are exciting, they are the least exciting asset class in America, but because you already know what they do. Each one runs somewhere between $280,000 and $320,000. Each one financed the same way, net somewhere around $550 to $700 a month after everything. 3 of them, conservatively, is $1,800 a month in cash flow that shows up whether you're paying attention or not. Your wife looks at the spreadsheet for a long time. She doesn't say anything for a minute. Then she says the thing that ends up defining the next 4 months. The beach house is a thing we'd love. The duplexes are a thing that would love us back. You don't decide that night? You sit with it for 6 weeks, the same 6 weeks the realtor is quietly scheduling other showings for the Sandbridge house, the same 6 weeks you keep opening the listing on your phone in bed and closing it again without saying anything. Your brother finds out about the inheritance in April, the way family finds out about these things, sideways, through your mother-in-law mentioning it at a barbecue. He calls you that Sunday. He's not asking for money, not directly, but he circles it for 20 minutes, his transmission, the used Jeep listing he's been eyeing, the timing of his daughter's braces. You don't offer, you don't explain the spreadsheet. You just let the conversation end the way conversations like that end, with him saying, well, anyway, and you saying, yeah, anyway, both of you knowing there's a number sitting between you that neither of you named. That's the part that doesn't get easier. Not the math. The math was never hard. It's the specific discomfort of having an answer and choosing not to give it, of listening to someone you love talk around a problem you could solve in one phone call, and staying quiet because you've learned, the hard way, with a cousin 4 years ago who never paid back $12,000 and never mentioned it again. That money handed over before someone asks for it directly rarely lands the way you hope. By May, you've toured 2 of the 3 duplexes. One is in a neighborhood 15 minutes from your current one, built in 1998, tenant already in place on a lease that runs through next February. The seller is a retired schoolteacher named Pam who's been managing it herself for 6 years and is tired of fixing garbage disposals at 71 years old. You offer $298,000. She counters at $305,000. You split the difference and close in 11 days. The second one takes longer. It's a foreclosure bancone, needs a new roof and about $18,000 in deferred maintenance that the listing photos don't show you but the inspection does. You almost walk. Your contractor, a guy named Tomas you've used for 3 years, who answers texts at 9 p.m. and never once has overpromised a timeline, tells you the roof is a 2-week job and the number is fair for what you're getting. You close on it in June for $284,000, put $16,000 into it, and have a tenant in by August paying $1,650 a month. The third one doesn't happen the way you planned. The deal you were tracking falls through, the seller's brother contests the estate, the whole thing stalls for 4 months. You sit on the remaining $58,000 in a high-yield savings account earning 4.6%, which feels almost embarrassingly unglamorous after the first 2 closings, but you don't force it. You've learned that forcing the third deal just to hit a number you set for yourself in March is how people end up overpaying for things they didn't actually want. Meanwhile, the beach house sells to someone else in July. You see it on Zillow one night scrolling out of habit more than curiosity, sold for $1.38 million. You feel something when you see it and it takes you a minute to name it. It isn't regret. It's closer to the feeling of watching a door close on a room you looked into once, liked, and then quietly decided wasn't yours to walk into. Your wife sees the listing too later that week from her own phone and doesn't mention it until dinner. She just says, "Someone bought the Sandbridge house." You say, "Yeah, I saw." Neither of you says anything else about it. There isn't anything else to say. You made the decision in April. This is just the world catching up to it in July. By October, both duplexes are rented, both cash flowing, and you run the numbers again out of habit more than necessity. Combined, after the down payments, after Tomas's roof, after the closing costs on both, you've deployed $282,000 of the $340,000. What's left generates $1,190 a month in net cash flow. Before you account for the tax benefits, depreciation alone is going to shelter close to $14,000 of taxable income this year. Something your accountant mentions almost as an aside, the way people mention things that matter enormously and sound like nothing. The beach house, had you bought it, would currently be costing you somewhere around $2,400 a month net, after accounting for the 6 weeks of personal use and a conservative rental offset. The gap between the two paths in year 1 alone is close to $3,600 a month. That's not the interesting number. The interesting number is what happens to that gap over 10 years, when one side is compounding equity and cash flow, and the other side is a depreciating structure fighting saltwater and hurricane insurance premiums that have gone up 40% in your county alone since 2021. You don't explain any of this to anyone at your daughter's soccer games. When one of the other parents mentions their family's place in Duck, the conversation you have in your head, the one about cap rates and cash-on-cash returns and the actual arithmetic of vacation property ownership, never makes it out of your head. You just say, "That sounds nice," and mean it because it does sound nice. You're not against beach houses. You're against buying one with money that was working somewhere else. The third duplex finally closes in November after the estate dispute resolves. You pay $271,000 for it, slightly under what you'd budgeted because the seller wants a fast close more than a high number. It needs almost nothing: a fresh coat of paint, a new garbage disposal, the same fixture that seems to die in every one of these properties eventually. You have a tenant in by December 1st. 3 duplexes, 6 units total. Combined monthly cash flow once everything stabilizes sits around $1,940 net. Combined equity between the down payments and 4 months of principal paydown in a market that's moved slightly in your favor is somewhere around $410,000 against $340,000 invested. That's not counting the depreciation. That's not counting the fact that rents in all 3 neighborhoods have room to move up at renewal. Your father-in-law, the one whose passing made all of this possible in the first place, would have liked the duplexes more than the beach house. You know this without ever having discussed it with him, the same way you know things about people you loved who are gone, not from anything they said directly but from the shape of the life they built. He drove the same truck for 11 years. He never once mentioned what his rental property was worth, not even the year it doubled. You inherited more than money from him. You inherited the instinct to not need anyone to know. At Thanksgiving, your brother mentions the Jeep again, half joking this time, the braces already paid for through some arrangement you never asked about and he never explained. You don't bring up the duplexes, he doesn't ask. There's a version of this family where everyone knows everyone's numbers, and you've watched what that version does to people. The resentment that shows up quiet at first and then not quiet at all. The way money conversations rot things from the inside when they happen at the wrong time in the wrong tone for the wrong reasons. You'd rather he think you're comfortable than know exactly how comfortable, because the moment he knows the number becomes the relationship. In January, your wife pulls up the spreadsheet again, unprompted on a Sunday morning while the coffee is still brewing. She scrolls through the year: March, the beach house showing; April, the decision; May through November, 3 closings; December, the first full month of stabilized cash flow. She doesn't say anything for a while, then she says, "We could still buy the beach house someday. A smaller one, once the duplexes have paid for it themselves." You hadn't thought about it that way, not explicitly, but she's right. At $1,940 a month, conservatively growing as rents adjust, the duplexes will have generated enough net cash flow to cover a meaningful chunk of a smaller beach property within 6 or 7 years, not instead of the equity growth in addition to it. The beach house isn't gone. It's just no longer the thing you buy with the windfall. It becomes the thing the windfall, properly deployed, eventually buys you anyway, except this time it arrives without a $6,800 monthly payment attached to it. That's the part that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't sat with a spreadsheet at 11 p.m. comparing two futures that both start with the same $340,000. It never felt like sacrifice exactly, even in the moments it should have. Standing in the Wendy's parking lot reading that email, you didn't feel like you'd lost something. You felt like you'd already spent that feeling back in April, sitting at the kitchen table, when the decision actually got made quietly, without ceremony, over a spreadsheet neither of your families will ever see. The soccer season ends in March. You're standing on the sideline next to the same parents you've stood next to for 2 years, the ones with the place in Duck, the ones who just put a deposit down on a boat. Someone asks what you and your wife have been up to. You say, "Not much, same old." And it's true in the way that matters. Nothing about the outside of your life changed this year. Same house, same cars, same Wendy's on the way home from practice. What's different is quieter than that, sitting in 3 tenant-occupied duplexes across 2 zip codes nobody at this soccer field will ever drive through, generating $1,940 a month whether you show up or not. Compounding toward a beach house you'll eventually buy with money that already did its job once. The email is still in your inbox, the one from the realtor, the one you read once in a parking lot with a melting Frosty and felt almost nothing about. You could delete it. You don't. You leave it there, unread status long gone, buried under 6 months of other emails, a small reminder of the version of this year where you said yes instead of no. You didn't say no to the beach house because you didn't want it. You said no because you wanted what the beach house was pretending to offer, the feeling of having arrived, and you'd already figured out that feeling doesn't come from a wraparound deck. It comes from watching a number compound quietly enough that nobody, not your brother, not the parents at the soccer field, not even you most days, notices it's happening at all. The question that's left, the one you're still sitting with some nights after your wife's asleep and the spreadsheet is still open on the laptop beside you. How many other some days are you willing to delay on purpose so that the ones that actually matter arrive without a mortgage attached to them? Final word count, 3,412 words. Upload 3 5 sample video images, not thumbnails.